Okay, we're going to start learning how to throw on the wheel. You're going to need some things before you sit down to actually throw on the wheel. Everything you need to throw on the wheel is on these two shelves, okay? First thing I'm going to need is a bucket, just a 1 gallon bucket. Second thing I'm going to need, I absolutely am going to need a rib that's shaped like this. I'm going to need a throwing stick, and there's a couple different styles that are in there. That's one style. Here's another, that one's kind of worn. Here's another style. Going to need a sponge, a potter's needle, and at some point I'm going to need a lip finisher. It's just a piece of leather chamois on a wine cork. And then I need to take a bat, and today I'm going to use a big bat. If I'm making a vessel that's going to be closed in a little bit, I could use one of these sponge sticks, but I'm not quite at that point. So I come down here and I'm going to fill my bucket almost 3/4 of the way full with hot water. Okay, now I brought my bucket with my water, my tools over here. I got my bat, so I can put my bat on the bat pins, just like that. Then I take the splash pan and I put the bucket on the right. The big splash pan goes on first. The flange here goes underneath the plate. I hook my heel around the leg and I slowly work this on. Scoop my stool up. Now I've got to probably move this out just a little bit. Going to take this splash pan, you tilt it up like this. These holes are going to go around those pins. Slide it up and it pops right on like that. You should have an equal distance around the bat. Okay. Now, what I do is I leave the sponge in the bucket, put my other tools here on the left, potter's needle. Now I'm ready to throw. Now I have to get something to throw. Your chunks of clay are going to be in these buckets. This one is marked 1 pound chunks. So what I do is take the lid off, take out a 1 pound chunk, put my lid back on, and then I just seal the lid back on. That way the clay in here doesn't dry out for me. And now I'm ready to go throw this on the potter's wheel. Okay, the first step is I've got my 1 pound chunk. I've got my bat right here. I'm going to try and take this chunk and put it right in the middle of the bat, as close to center as I can. Just like that. All right, and it's stuck down there. Now, the first thing I have to do, you need to memorize these 2 lines of images. I have to do the first line first, and I have to do it 3 times. First thing I'm going to do is dome. That seals the clay to the bat. Then I'm going to cone, and then go back to doming. This actually wedges the clay on the wheel. Then I'm going to hockey puck it, which is the size of whatever it is I'm going to throw. Then you open the hockey puck up, and then we are going to cut a groove so that we can start our pull. So I come back over to my wheel. I scoot the stool up to where it's almost touching the wheel. I usually cover my left leg because the clay is spinning this way. I get my wheel going, and you don't want to go in full speed. That's a comfortable speed. Now I put my foot on the floor. That way, as I lean in, I want to accidentally cause the wheel to accelerate. The hand position for coning and doming Your left hand is straight up like this. Take the right hand. You are going to turn the right hand like this. Thumbs go down, fingers go down. When I want a dome, I'm going to push down with the palm of my right hand. I'm going to lean in. That is going to push it down. When I want to come up, I'm going to push in with my left hand and let the clay come up. You're going to want to put the center of your chest over the center of the lump of clay. So you touch your hands to the bottom, that hand position. This is so small clay, I gotta do it this way. I lean in, push down, and that's where the clay was spitting in my hands, okay? Now the clay is seated to the bat. Makes sense? Touch the bottom of the bucket again. Same hand position, but this time I'm gonna push in here and I'm gonna let the clay rise. We're gonna do it like this so you can see it. That's a cone, all right? Clay was spinning here in my hands. Now I'm gonna bring it back down, same hand position. There you go, that's one. We gotta do that 3 times. So I'm gonna bring the cone back up. Take it down into a dome. That's 2. And this will be 3. Water is your friend in this. Okay, now I've completed the first line. Now I go to the second line. First thing is I want to make a hockey puck, but how do I know this is spinning on center? Well, that's pretty easy. If you'll notice, I take my finger, I put it out here, and see how the distance between the end of my finger and the bat does not change. That tells us the bat is spinning symmetrically. I rest my hand on the splash pan, put my finger out there, see how the distance between the clay and my finger does not change? That means it's spinning symmetrically. Now I need to make my hockey puck. Now, first thing you're gonna make is a small bowl. I know if I make my hockey puck about as wide as my knuckles, I'm gonna end up with a nice cereal bowl. So I check, and it's almost the right shape right now. So we're gonna take, to make the hockey puck, left hand is up, right hand grabs that thumb. I'm gonna push down with the blade of my hand and the palm of my hand at the same time to make my hockey puck. There you go. Okay. Now, I'm on to the center picture. This is the hard part, and you have to pay special attention to it. Touch the bottom of my bucket. My left hand, think of it as a tool rest. I'm gonna let my right hand ride on that left hand to open it up, okay? My middle finger, my pointer finger is on top of that to keep this middle finger straight. This is the part that's going to touch the clay and put the force down, and it's going to go straight down to cut a shallow V to open up my clay. I'm going to come in just like this. Sorry guys, I got to do it. Arthritis in the thumbs, can't put it inside anymore. See how I go down? Keep the angle low. And that's the second drawing. I've opened up my piece. Now, when you're starting out, to make sure you've got 3/8 of an inch at the bottom, hold your potter's needle like this so you can slide your pointer finger up and down. Okay? Then I stop the wheel. Gonna push the needle down in, slide it down, and that's about what you want left on the bottom. You want your bottom to be about that thick, especially for a bowl. Now I'm going to open this up. Okay, think of it like a V like this. All we're going to do is open the bottom up so we have parallel lines to work with. So same hand position, and I'm actually just pulling this finger towards the palm of my hand. Not going down, I'm going out. Then I slowly take my hands off. That's just a little flashing on there. Okay? So now I've opened it up. Half the battle is learning how to center your clay on the wheel through coning and doming. It wedges the clay on the wheel, but it also gets you ready to pull a vessel. Everything you make on the potter's wheel starts off as a cylinder like this. And then, depending on the size of the cylinder and the shape of the cylinder, it's whatever you want to make it. Okay, this piece I want to make a bowl. I know if it's around the size, the width of my knuckles, it's going to make a nice bowl. But now I need to pull up. To pull up, I'm going to interlace my thumbs like this. I'm going to work here at 3 o'clock. I'm going to just squeeze the clay together a little bit, and I'm going to bring that bead of clay up. The goal is to reach your full height in 3 pulls. Before I do that, I got to make sure my clay is wet. So I make the peace sign, put one finger on each side of the wall of the clay, put the sponge here and just squeeze, and the water will run down. Then thumbs, arc your fingers. This is what touches the clay. The other fingers are just there for support. And I'm going to reach in, arms on my knees. I'm not really squeezing in, I'm bringing it up. And slowly take your fingers off the top. Okay, that's my first pull. Peace sign again, finger on each side, squeeze, water runs down, thumbs, arc my fingers, I reach down here, bring up my second pull, all right, third pull, wet the sides down. And again, this is just for height. And there's the height of my bowl. All right, now I'm going to shape it. To shape it, I'm going to use a pottery rib. So I take, wet down the sides again. I'm going to take my rib, I'm going to use it like my fingers. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to apply pressure that way and then curve it up. So I come in here. like my bowls to have a little bit of a flare on the lip. And that's the shape of a bowl. Now, one thing you have to do is use the bottom of your rib. I'm going to put pressure down. Otherwise, when you dry it, you're going to end up with S cracks in the bottom, and you don't want that. Now, if you notice, there's lots of water down in here. This is also how you get a flat bottom. So I'm going to hold it with both hands, put my rib down on the bottom, push down, slowly move it out. Take off this clay, just drop it in the old bucket. Now, getting ready to finish it up, notice the lip. So we're going to take our lip finisher to round that off and make it look nice. And you don't really put a lot of pressure. You just let it catch. Actually, I use the other side. Hold it in two hands, just drape it over it, and just rounds the lip nicely. Okay, now let's take a look at the inside. I squeeze all the water out of my sponge. Put my sponge in here dry, and it will pick up all the water that's on the inside. Okay, that looks like a pretty nice pot. To start to finish it, you see down here though where it's flared out? To make my life a little easier, I'm going to trim that foot a little bit. So what I do is I get my throwing stick, get the sponge full of water, put it on the throwing stick. It's going to run down off the tip. What I do is come in here, just follow, and I'm squeezing the sponge as I put the stick down in there. I'm just following the curve of the pot till I hit the bat. Then I usually just let the water fill that up. Then take my potter's needle, hold it low, go in underneath. It just makes your job of cutting a foot, which we'll do tomorrow, even easier. Now to make my cleanup easier, I turn the wheel on. Just going to take a dry sponge in here, clean off the bat. Make sure there's no water down in the bottom of my pot. Clean off my hands. Just that way we're not getting clay everywhere in the studio. Now, I've done, it turned out nice. Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to take and I lift the bat up off my wheel head. I'm going to take, and we will have a cupboard, probably this one, to put our pots in so they dry. Now, it'll depend on how dry the air is. If it's a really dry winter day, then we're going to have to take and put a bag just over the top of your pot like this so that it doesn't dry too fast and crack on us. And then it's got to sit in there at least overnight before tomorrow we'll come back and cut a foot in it. Okay, we've thrown our pot, we put it in the cabinet. Now we have to clean up. First thing we do is turn the power off to the wheel. Then I can step on it and the wheel head's not going. Take the bucket, put it on the wheel head. First thing I do is take my sponge and I'm going to clean off any of the tools that I've used into the white bucket. Your goal is to leave the tools in a better state than you found them. Now, if you made a mess anywhere out here, you want to take the sponge, clean all this up. Okay. You want to do all this before you go back over to the sink. Now, next step is I want to take the small splash pan off. To do that, there are thumb tabs on each side of the tray. You're going to push down here with your thumb, and I hang on to this, as you pull up here with your fingers. So push down, pull up, and it pops off. Then you tilt it up like this. You may want to come over here. And what I'm going to do is then clean everything into the white bucket. And again, if someone else left kind of a mess, I'm going to take just a minute. You notice this really doesn't take very long to do. And clean off. Now, I'm going to want to take those back over, but I can put this here. Come in here if I see any clay down. Rinse it out. Now you're just reversing all the procedures you did to clean this up. To get this tray off, I put my foot against that leg, grab here, slowly, see how I'm working it back? You'll feel it let go. Put this up. If I see anything that's messy back here, I'm going to take the sponge, clean it off, then slowly start working from the top down. Clay gets down in there. And it all goes into the white bucket. And do the same thing with the outside. Squeeze it off. Then last, but certainly not least, we do the wheel head. Lick all the water up off of it. And then do the edge. And that is how you should leave your potter's wheel. Now, I'm going to take my tools and my water. I'm going to head back over. We're going to put the bucket here for just a second. Then I come down here. Needle goes here. We'll have a container for the lip finishers. Throwing sticks here. This one goes in the center. Then I come over here. And what I usually do, and I suggest this, is set your bucket up here. And what you can do is just run around the outside of the bucket. Get it cleaned up. Then go around on the inside initially to get most of that clay down in there. Then you take and pour it in, and as it's going in, you just scoop all the rest of that clay in there. You need to get a little water from in here, sponge out the inside of the bucket. Everything goes in here. Okay, now, couple caveats. If I had a really stubborn thing, I could get some more water, put it in there. It doesn't go down that drain, not that sink drain. It comes over and goes into the clay trap. Say I had a potter's wheel that was a real mess. I needed more water to clean up. I get fresh water in here, go clean up the potter's wheel. When I bring it back, it all goes in here. Okay? Squeeze out the sponge. Put the sponge back. Put the bucket up here. There should be at least 10 buckets up here at the end of the period, or 12 buckets. 12 of everything. That's how we keep track of everything. And that is how you use a potter's wheel. Okay, we've seen how to clean everything up, and if you notice, I haven't gone to the sink yet to wash my hands. I just put my bucket and sponge over there after cleaning everything up. If you come and look at the amount of clay I have on my hands, this is the most you should ever have on your hands before you go to the sink to wash your hands. So I get soap, and now I can come over here, and this little bit of clay is going to get caught in that clay trap in there, and I can wash my hands here in the sink. It's the absolute last thing you do in this class, because once you wash your hands, you should be able to walk out the door when it's a wheel day. Everything else goes into the clay trap. Also check underneath your rings if you can't get your rings off to make sure the clay is out of there too. See? That's the last step when you're throwing on a wheel day.